Namane, Shri Gora Karuna Shakti, Bhakti Tirtha Swaminiti Namane. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane, Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi, Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktavinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Good morning, devotees. Hope you're all doing well today. Continuing our reading of the Caitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, Chapter 5, entitled The Activities of Shakshi Gopal. And this is, we left off last week at text number 30. And we'll pick up today at text 31. Would anybody like to give a 2 or 3 minute brief summary of what we read up to until now?
Well, if you want, I can try.
Just briefly. We don't,
Yeah, this is the pastime which is being narrated by Lord Nityananda Prabhu, and about the Gopala, the two devotees, devotee Brahmanas who were on pilgrimage, and there's a poor Brahmana which is younger, who's unmarried, and there's a senior Brahman who is older. The poor Brahman helped the rich Brahman, which is on his pilgrimage. So being very pleased with his service, the Brahman is literally very much offering his daughter in charity as his wife, as wife. So that's the discussion is going on, and the poor Brahman is very much shocked for such kind of offering. He said that generally it is done in the same level. No one just offers one's daughter without consulting the family members. But it looks like the senior Brahman was very much pleased with the character and behavior of this devotee Brahmana. So that's where we are.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhu. Nice summary. So text number 31, Mother Nilambari is unable to make it today. She's been our Bengali reader. Is there anyone else here who would like to read the Bengali? I'm not familiar with everybody's.
I can try if no one is there, but in between, I may take pause.
Sure. Yeah. You can pick up if you have to pause. It's fine.
Anybody?
Translation. The younger Brahmana replied, "If you have decided to give your young daughter to me, then say it before the Gopal deity."
গোপালের আগে বিপ্র কহিতে লাগিলা তুমি জানো নিজ কন্যা ইহারে আমি দিলা.
Translation. Coming before Gopala, the elderly Brahmin said, "My dear Lord, please witness that I have given my daughter to this boy." Purport. In India, it is still custom for a daughter to be offered to someone simply by word. This is called Vagdatta. This means that the father, brother, or guardian of a girl has given his word that she will be married to a certain man. Consequently, that daughter cannot be married to anyone else. She is reserved by virtue of the honest words of the father or guardian. There are many instances in which the parents of a female child have given someone a verbal promise that their daughter will be married to his son. Both parties agree to wait until the boy and girl are grown up. Then the marriage takes place. Following this custom, which is very old in India, the elderly Brahmin promised to give his daughter to the younger Brahmana in charity. And he promised this before the Gopal deity. In India, the custom is to honor any promise made before the deity. Such a promise cannot be canceled. In Indian villages, whenever there is a quarrel between two parties, they go to a temple to settle the quarrel. Whatever is spoken in front of the deity is taken to be true, for no one dare lie before the deity. The same principle was followed in the Battle of Kurukshetra. Therefore, in the very beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated, Dharmakshetre Kurukshetre. By not becoming God conscious, human society is deteriorating to the lowest standard of animal life. This Krishna consciousness movement is very essential to reviving God consciousness among the general populace. If people actually become God conscious, our quarrels can be settled outside of court, as happened in the case of the two Brahmanas, whose disagreement was settled by the witness Gopal. Om Agena Timbarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Umiliyatam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master has opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Just a few comments on this verse. We may have heard the term when people say, I swear to God, if you're questioned about something, and you want somebody to really believe it, they say, I swear to God. Which means a swear means that you take a promise or a vow. So you're saying, I take a vow before God. You can trust me. It's another way of saying you can trust me. It's actually not a very nice thing to say because, it can be said in a different way because the word swear also could mean a very unacceptable word, a foul word, to say a swear word. And to also, if you're not really committed and have a relationship with God, to not use God in this way, because a lot of times you're saying these things because you're wanting some material thing. So to say I swear to God for some material thing does not it doesn't really correlate with the mood of the soul's eternal relationship with God. But anyway, we say this as a matter of it's of a generic language that we use. But we can see here, this is what they're doing. They're taking a vow before God. That's he's basically the younger poor Brahmin who's been offered the elderly Brahmin's daughter, younger daughter, in marriage. He doesn't believe that this is going to happen, and he believes once he returns home and his family understands what promise he's made, there's a good chance that he can reverse his position. So therefore he's saying, if you tell it before the Gopal deity, this will make it, this will create a pact, a bond. You won't be able to back out of it. So bearing witness before the Gopal deity, I have a god sister. It's really nice. Instead of saying, I swear to God, she would always say, Krishna is my witness. if she wanted to say something, like, did you really do it? Yes, Krishna is my witness. Of course, Krishna is always witnessing all our activities. Um, as the super soul, he is the supreme witness of the activities and desires of every living entity. So this is going on. Srila Prabhupada makes the point in the purport here, that the word, when it is given, it is something that is to be taken very seriously, or else, trust is broken. And going back to very old times in India, this, people would give verbal promises, and those promises would be held. Even in the form of marriage, even when a young girl was very young, she would promise, her parents would promise her to a boy, and later on they would get married, but still, because they gave a word, that this would happen. So this is very uh, very honorable, that we can see that this making a promise, being able to keep a promise, this is not very uh, this is overlooked, I should say, in today's world. People make promises all the time and break them within a couple of hours. If a better deal comes along, a better situation comes along, they realize they made a mistake, they back out, and usually there's no a whole lot of consequence unless you're actually signing a contract. So we live in a different time, this age of quarrel in Kali Yuga. Truthfulness is this last leg of Dharma, which is falling off. And we can see this in our interactions. And as a result, there are many more quarrels. And um, uh, Srila Prabhupada in the second part of this purport, Srila Prabhupada makes the point about, human society is deteriorating to the standard of animal life. And animal life is, you can't think of anything greater than yourself or your family or your species. You're thinking about only about your own survival. And when that happens, there's bound to be conflict, because we're putting ourselves and our needs at the foremost center of life. And when that happens, if I become a center and everybody else on here becomes a center, around us are our field of activities. And the circle that forms around my center and the circle that forms around everyone else's center, we're bound to intersect. Our circles are bound to intersect. My needs are going to conflict with your needs. And this is animal life. And thus we'll struggle for existence, competing against one another. So, but when we put Krishna in the center, everybody becomes part of the field of activities around Krishna. This is devotional service, where Krishna, anukuliyena Krishna anushilanam, bhaktiruttama. We serve Krishna favorably. Krishna is the center of attraction. He is the object of our worship, the object of our activities. Then things can be peaceful. If not, there'll be this constant intersection. So then he also makes the point. I'll stop here right after this to get your thoughts on this. But that if people have a quarrel, they can settle it, by going before the deity of Gopal, or just the deity, we could say the deity of Krishna. In this case, it was the deity of Gopal, where the two brahmanas had a disagreement. And before Krishna, you can make your case, because before that Krishna, one should be very honest. Does anybody have any thoughts or questions with this?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think you covered this culture looks like it's not only in India, it's in West as well, right? I swear God. Now it's become, sorry for that. Something.
Here's scene 7, Devaki, and Kamsa 18.
Sorry.
My dear brother, please,
Sorry.
please, do not.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah. So I think still the practice is still there. However, the seriousness of the words is not considered because in the age of Kali, and everything deteriorates. People will not keep their words, and to give word in front of God also has been taken very for granted and casually. I think looks like the reason the younger Brahmana asked, older Brahmana, if you, he was not believing if this older Brahmin is really serious or not.
Yeah.
Because he said, are you serious? Can you swear? Then that's the, because it can be understood in many other ways. Is this Brahmana looks like so greedy, or is so desperate that to get married to this younger daughter, he wants to make him swear now itself. I think it's not that. That's not the reason. He can't believe that this is saying. Are you sure? If you say, because it can be disturbing also if he's just making a joke of it.
Yeah.
Um,
No, very nice.
yeah.
Does anybody know? I was trying to, I did a little research, but I couldn't find anything. The reference to the Battle of Kurukshetra and why it's being used here. It's the sentences here, whatever is spoken in front of the deity is taken to be true. For no one would dare to lie before the deity. The same principle was followed in the Battle of Kurukshetra. Therefore, in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita is stated, Dharmakshetra, Kurukshetra. Was there a vow taken before a deity at the Battle of Kurukshetra? Does anybody know? I couldn't find any reference to this.
I think the point is that Kurukshetra itself is a very holy place. So it's a dharma kshetra. Whatever is said and done in Kurukshetra, only righteousness will. The place itself, it's a dharma kshetra. It's a kshetra where dharma is supreme.
Supreme. Very nice. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and we as a result of that, the Dhritarashtra was a bit nervous. He was a bit nervous and a bit hopeful at the onset of the Bhagavad Gita, because when Sanjaya said, Dharmak Kshetra Kurukshetra Samaveta Yuyutsavaha Mamaka Pandavas Chaiva Kimakuravata Sanjaya. He asked him, he asked Sanjaya, he said, what is happening at this place of Dharma, at Kurukshetra, when the sons of Pandu and my sons, have assembled to fight, what did they do? Because what is the effect of this Dharma going to have, this field of Dharma going to have on the result of this activity? Will that, because it's a place of religion, will it make the Pandavas not want to fight, understanding that, appealing to their better side, that maybe they'll decide not to fight because we're in a field of religiosity? Or will the impact of Dharma have a negative effect on my sons because they are irreligious? Thank you, Mother Shobharate. Anything else before we move on to text 33? Okay.
ছোটা বিপ্র বলে ঠাকুর তুমি মর সাক্ষী তম সাক্ষী বলায় মো यदि अन्यथा देखी.
The younger Brahmana addressed the deity, saying, "My dear Lord, you are my witness. I shall call for you to testify if it is necessary later on."
ଏତାବଲି ଦୁଇ ଜାଣେ ଚାଲିଲା ଦେଶରେ ଗୁରୁ ବୁଦ୍ଧି ଛୋଟା ବିପ୍ର ବହୁ ସେବା କରେ.
After these talks, the two Brahmanas started for home. As usual, the younger Brahmana accompanied the elderly Brahmana, as if the older Brahmana were a guru, spiritual master, and rendered him service in various ways.
ଦେଶେ ଆସି ଦୁଇ ଜାଣେ ଗେଲା ନିଜ ଘରେ କତ ଦିନେ ବଡ଼ ବିପ୍ର ଚିନ୍ତିତ ଅନ୍ତରେ.
After returning to Vidyanagara, each Brahmana went to his respective home. After some time, the elderly Brahmana became very anxious. So we can only imagine why he was becoming anxious. This is the scene is now being set. What's going on inside of his mind? Now I'm come home. Now I have to deliver this news to my wife and the rest of my family, to my daughter, and the effects of a place can certainly, and the situation can certainly have an impact on our decision. Therefore, we should always be sure before we make a quick decision that we, that it's really thought out, because in a particular moment, we can become overwhelmed with joy, ecstasy, or perhaps sorrow and dejection, and we want to make a quick decision. But then, when everything else comes back into focus, when everything settles down, you may think, oh God, well, at that time I was thinking like this because I was in a sad mood, or I was in a very happy mood, or so whatever we do, we should give some thought, so that we don't have this later on, some regret, or realize that maybe I didn't take into consideration all the various factors. So anyway, this elderly Brahmin is in a situation now where he's very anxious, where he has to deliver this news. Let us continue.
तीर्थे विप्रे वाक्य दिलून केमते सत्य है स्त्री पुत्र ज्ञाति बंधु जानिबे निश्चय.
He began to think, I've given my word to a Brahmana in a holy place, and what I promised will certainly come to pass. I must now disclose this to my wife, sons, other relatives, and friends.
एक दिन निज लोक एकत्र करेला ता सबार आगे सब वृत्तांत कहेला.
Thus one day the elderly Brahmana called for a meeting of all his relatives and friends, and before them all, he narrated what had taken place in front of Gopal. When you have to deliver news that is uncomfortable for somebody, they say there's never a good time for this. I was talking to a devotee recently about this. He was talking about having to discuss, some sensitive topics with his family, and I would ask him each time, did you have your conversation? And he'd say, no, not yet, maybe next week. And he having to keep putting it off. And we were discussing that there's really no good time to have these conversations. You keep thinking, okay, well, maybe next week something will happen and it'll be the ideal time. And then that week goes by, okay, nothing, no ideal time. And you say, okay, I'll wait for the next week. And then maybe next month, okay, maybe after the summer's done. And then time goes on and on and on. To deliver news that is uncomfortable, it can be very challenging. But in order to put yourself take yourself out of distress, better to get it off your plate as soon as possible, or else you'll carry this around. And also the outcome itself will probably not be any different. So better not to hold it in as for too long, because this can be a challenge for people as we carry uncomfortable news around with us for too long. Better to disclose it and move on. Okay, let's continue. I'm sure everybody's had this situation before in some case or another where you've had to deliver some type of uncomfortable news to somebody.
Suni sab goshti tar kare ahakar, aiche baat mukhe tumi na nibe ar.
When those who belong to the family circle heard the narration of the old Brahmana, they made exclamations showing their disappointment. They all requested that he not make such a proposal again.
Niche kanya dile kula yaibe kanas, suni na sakala loka karibe upahas.
They unanimously agreed, if you offer your daughter to a degraded They unanimously agreed, if you offer your daughter to a degraded family, your aristocracy will be lost. When people hear of this, they will make jokes and laugh at you.
Viprabale tirthavakya ke mana karyan, ye hauka ami diva kanyadan.
The elderly Brahmin said, how can I undo the promise I made in a holy place while on pilgrimage? Whatever may happen, I must give him my daughter in charity.
Gyati loka kahe mora tobake chadiba, stri putra kahe bisa khaiya mariba.
The relatives unanimously said, if you give your daughter to that boy, we shall give up all connection with you. Indeed, his wife and sons declared, if such a thing happens, we shall take poison and die. Wow, so now this is getting very extreme. Not only are they pressured, are they disappointed? Now they're saying, this will bring shame to our family. Some distant relatives are now saying, or not, maybe not distant, but other relatives are saying, and friends are saying, we will no longer talk to you anymore. We're going to sever our relationship with you. And now his wife and sons are basically saying, we're going to commit suicide if this goes on. So talk about pressure they're putting on their father. And we can maybe sympathize with him, empathize with him a little bit. If we've ever been in a situation in life, it could have been a marriage situation where people were arguing about whether this is right or it's not right. It could be in another different type of situation in life where there's a disagreement, where a lot of pressure comes, whether it's peer pressure or family pressure to do something. I know it could be even just the choice of practicing the path of bhakti, becoming an initiated devotee. Maybe the family will not like, and they really try to discourage you, making, strong pleas, please don't go down this path. So sometimes this happens, and we feel the pressure of letting other people down, even though you're doing the right thing. Anyway, these are real life things that we all kind of undergo, so we can kind of understand maybe the feelings that this elderly Brahmana may be experiencing.
বিপ্রবলে সাক্ষী বলনা করিবে ন্যায় জিতি কন্যা লবে মোর ব্যর্থা ধর্ম হয়.
The elderly Brahmin said, "If I do not give my daughter to the young Brahmana, he will call Sri Gopalaji as a witness. Thus, he will take my daughter by force. And in that case, my religious principles will become meaningless."
পুত্র বলে প্রতিমা সাক্ষী সেহ দূর দেশে কে তোমার সাক্ষী দিবে চিন্তা করো কিসে.
His son replied, "The deity may be a witness, but he is in a distant country. How can he come to bear witness against you? Why are you so anxious over this?" Text 44.
নাই
Oh, sorry.
নাহি কহি না কহিও এ মিথ্যা বচন সবে কহিবে মোর কিছু নাহি স্মরণ.
You do not have to flatly deny that you have spoke such a thing. There is no need to make a false statement. Simply say that you do not remember what you said.
নাই সঙ্গা. তুমি
There'll be a purport in just a moment, and then we'll discuss some of these.
তুমি যদি কহ আমি কিছুই না জানি তবে আমি ন্যায় করি ব্রাহ্মণের যিনি.
If you simply say, "I do not remember," I shall take care of the rest. By my argument, I shall defeat the young Brahmana. This is his son of the elder Brahmin speaking of this. Purport. The son of the elderly Brahmana was an atheist and a follower of the Raghunatha Smriti. He was very expert in dealing with pounds and shillings and pence, but he was fool number one. Consequently, he did not believe in the spiritual position of the deity, nor did he have any faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, as a typical idol worshipper, he considered the form of the Lord to be made of stone or wood. Thus he assured his father that the witness was only a stone deity and not capable of speaking. Besides that, he assured his father that the deity was situated far away and consequently could not come to bear witness. In essence, he was saying, "Have no anxiety. You do not have to lie directly, but you should speak like a diplomat, like King Yudhisthira when he spoke to Dronacharya, Ashvatama hata iti gajaha." Following this principle, simply say that you do not remember anything and are completely unaware of the statements given by the young Brahmana. If you make the background like that, I shall know how to fill in the argument and defeat him by word jugglery. Thus, I shall save you from having to give your daughter to him. In this way, our aristocracy will be saved. You have nothing to worry about. This is very interesting because right away the son, he's revealing his level of understanding. He's basically saying, one, the deity is far away, so how can the deity truly bear witness? And plus you made this promise between really this idol, this stone idol. Yeah, it may be good for just carrying on tradition. It served you well. You feel better now that you went on this pilgrimage. But he didn't have really any faith that actually Krishna is present within the deity. Actually, Krishna is the deity. The form, our eyes cannot see spirit, in our conditioned level. But yet Krishna appears before us in the form of stone, wood, metal, paint, sand, jewels, etc. When the Lord is invited into the form of the deity, he actually is residing there within the deity. That same Lord that is sitting within our heart, which is bearing witness to every action and desire that we have. So he had no faith in this. He didn't believe in it. It may have just simply been a tradition. But the elderly Brahmana believed this. So therefore, he's requesting him. There's going to be no consequence. He's trying to tell his father, you think there's going to maybe be some sinful reaction to this. Don't worry. What will actually happen? Nothing will happen. You just made a promise before a statue. So this is very dangerous to associate with individuals like this. And if we do, we may sometimes find ourselves doubting our own faith. Our own faith could become weakened. However, hearing these narrations, like that of Shakshi Gopal or Shirachur Gopinath, or directly serving the deities at our local temple and developing a relationship with Krishna through service, we can actually see the manifestation of how the deity interacts with us. The reciprocation through service. Of course, our purpose is not to necessarily get the reciprocation, but is to serve. To come before the deity, to be seen by Krishna, to offer sincere prayers and render sincere service. But through that, one develops a connection. That a person who simply just comes, looks at the deity, and then leaves, they think, oh, this is just an idol. I just, I'm following some family tradition. I said some prayers, and then I go. They may not feel anything. Now, it's the same Supreme Lord that they are worshiping. But Krishna reserves the right, to have a relationship with each and every individual soul in existence. So another thing about this Brahmana, what he's advising his father to do is he's basically saying, well, you don't have to directly deny it. You don't have to directly lie. But you can, juggle the words around so that you're still kind of telling the truth. You're telling a half truth, but you're really not telling a lie. Just don't tell the whole truth. So we have to be very careful about this. Sometimes we may want to do this in order to cover our behaviors or to make, peace or diplomacy amongst people. But devotees should be straightforward. Truth is that which is spoken for the benefit of everyone. So what he's kind of talking about, we should be very careful not to participate in such behavior. And this should be a reminder that it doesn't feel very, very pure. It feels even though he's not being honest, he's being dishonest. And then also he's utilizing, Srila Prabhupada gives the example. He says, in essence, he is saying, have no anxiety. You do not have to lie directly. But you should speak like a diplomat, like King Yudhisthira, when he spoke to Dronacharya. Now, King Yudhisthira was a pure soul. So this is again how maybe an atheist or a karmakandi may look at the position of King Yudhisthira, seeing him as a diplomat as opposed to a righteous and saintly king. King Yudhisthira, being the son of Yamaraj, he actually never spoke a lie from his birth. Whatever his word was given, it was always upheld. He was always pure at heart, and he never wanted anything bad to happen to anybody. Even when the dice game was going on, and he knew that the game there was some manipulation and corruption, he gave his word. So this is what the outcome was going to be. I promised this, and therefore I have to hold my word. Even though most people would say, well, wait a second, this is obviously the game was fixed, so therefore my word doesn't count, because my word only counts based on the integrity of the game we were playing. So, but still, he gave his word. So in the Battle of Kurukshetra, when there was a point when Dronacharya, he became very fierce, and he just started slaying the enemies on the other side of the Pandava army. And one after another, he was using all the weapons in his arsenal. And the leaders of the Pandava army, including Lord Krishna, they felt that something has to be done to stop Dronacharya, because if he continues like this, it'll be devastation, upon our side. So Krishna approached Yudhisthira to tell him that Ashvatthama, his son, is dead. He was killed. And if you tell him that will demotivate him. But Yudhisthira, he paused and he says, well, I can't tell a lie that Ashvatthama is dead, because it's not my nature to tell a lie. I cannot tell something that I've never told a lie in my life. You may think, for us, what is the harm? The end justifies the means. But Yudhisthira was such a saintly person that this never would even cross into his mind. At the same time, they said, well, why not use somebody else? And they said, well, Dronacharya will only believe it if it comes from you. Because Ashvatthama had a benediction that was given by Lord Shiva to Ashvatthama. He gave it to Ashvatthama that he could not be killed. So Dronacharya knew that Ashvatthama was invincible. And therefore, only if it came from Yudhisthira, who he knows would never lie, would Dronacharya believe it. So it is said that because of his saintliness and his truthfulness, Yudhisthira's chariot actually never touched the ground. It hovered above the ground. It floated. But then after this situation, it actually went back to the ground. And those that follow, that think of things in more of a material way, they've interpreted this that because Yudhisthira eventually told this lie, he actually he lost his religiosity. The Vaishnavacharyas, they actually they've given a different understanding of this, and that is that because he hesitated upon Krishna's instruction, that is the reason why he lost this this kind of position, and his chariot then resided back down onto the earth. So what Krishna arranged for is that he arranged that Bhima kill an elephant whose name happened to be Ashvatthama, and then have King Yudhisthira declare that Ashvatthama, the elephant, is dead. And just as when he said, and go before Dronacharya, in which Dronacharya can hear it, and declare, Ashvatthama, the elephant, is dead, And just as when he said the word elephant, Lord Krishna blew the conch shell. There's a point here that we should remember. Even principles such as truthfulness, which is recognized as being a very rare and saintly quality, even that is not superior to Krishna's instructions. These are still relative truths, where Krishna is the absolute truth. Krishna says, no truth is superior to me. All things rest upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. So that we should understand there are relative truths and there are absolute truths. And the fact that Krishna gave this instruction to Maharaj Yudhisthira indicated that even in the case of lying or or holding fast to our principles or religious principles, they are all relative when you get an instruction directly from the Supreme Lord. When you get an instruction from the Supreme Lord, that is what is true, because it is coming from the absolute truth. So, not understanding this background and just kind of seeing it from the perspective of a materialist, the son of the Brahmana, he was thinking, "I'll just be like Yudhisthira, a diplomat like he was," without understanding actually the position of Lord Sri Krishna and the saintliness of King Yudhisthira. I'll pause here, see if there's any questions, comments, thoughts, or that anybody would like to mention. Anything?
Very nice summary. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Let's go to 850. We'll go a couple more.
Eta suni viprera chintita haila mana ekanta bhave chinte vipra gopala charana.
When the elderly Brahmana heard this, his mind became very much agitated. Feeling helpless, he simply turned his attention to the lotus feet of Gopala.
Maradharma raksha paya namare nija jana dui raksha karo Gopala lainu sarana.
The elderly Brahmana prayed, "My dear Lord Gopala, I have taken shelter of your lotus feet, and therefore I request you to please protect my religious principles from disturbance, and at the same time, save my kinsmen from dying." So this is the mood of a devotee. You can see the difference between, his mood and that of his family, is that when in distress, he took shelter of Lord Krishna. He had an attachment to Lord Gopal, the deity. And even though so much was going on, wife and son were, threatening suicide. Son was telling here, this is how we can lie and get away. Family members are saying, "Oh, we're going to disown you. You're going to be the joke of the town." And, he's getting all these different threats. And what did he do? He took shelter. He went back to meditating upon the lotus feet of Gopal and offering prayers. "I'm in this helpless condition. This is my situation. Please, I request you to please protect me, protect my religious principles. Please help solve this situation." So he took shelter. He took shelter of the Lord. This is a good reminder for us. When we're in difficult situations, who do we turn to? Where is our shelter? Are we going to use our minds? Are we going to use our families? Yeah, we may need to use these things, but where is our shelter? Where do we take refuge? You know, the elderly Brahmin is giving us his example. He took shelter of Lord Gopal. Okay, one more.
He was well-wisher of the family also. He wanted them protected as well.
Yeah, that's a good point, because he says he doesn't want to keep his kinsman from dying. His wife was claiming, I will give up my life. You know, so he didn't want any disturbance in anybody.
Right.
You know, we talked about this on Sunday feast during the class. You know, sometimes in life, you know, despite all our efforts, there's no good outcome, right? Somebody's going to be dissatisfied. You know, you choose this, you have this choice, or you choose that choice. There'll be some disturbance, even to our best of our ability, because this, as I explained earlier, you know, when we're all centers, if we don't put Krishna in the center, but we all make ourselves the center, our field of activities and our desires are going to intersect with all the other people around us. So there's going to be some disturbance. So um, he wanted the best for everybody, but he was feeling, how can there be an outcome that will be satisfactory to everybody? So he went to Lord Gopal, who's the master of all mystics, and he can make the impossible possible. So very smartly, he took shelter of him, the Supreme Lord.
Haribol.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, you were talking about lie. I think in Kali Yuga, you know, people like as if is a telling the truth, you know. And I know a lot of, even in the devotee community, people make up stuff about other people and try to lie. So I'm wondering, what kind of reaction do we get?
Not a good one. Um, the exact reaction, I'm not sure of. That, you know, up to Krishna. But the principle is that we know that Krishna sees everything. He witnesses everything. So you may fool one person or another person to get your way, or to cover your back of something that you said. But you're really harming yourself. It's not a good principle. This is the way of the material life. You have to, you know, you may have to lie in order to get ahead, or you tell one you play, as we say, playing politics, right? You know, you go to this person, tell them what they want, then you go to another person, you tell them what they want, you tell another person, you tell them what they want to hear. And in doing so, you lose your integrity. What are you trying to gain? It's so we have to be very careful. You know, we want to be very straightforward, in a saintly way, in an honest way. We want our purity to be able to be felt. But yeah, I do know what you mean by that. I feel oftentimes that you know, this isn't spoken about enough. Better to be direct, straightforward. Even if you have some fault, or maybe you've made some mistake, better to just, we're all conditioned. We realize we make mistakes. We make wrong judgments. I mean, who hasn't made a judgment that was, you know, wrong, or has made a mistake? Better to come forth. Yeah, I made this decision, you know, I shouldn't have done it, but I was thinking it was best at the time, or I did that, or maybe I don't know what I was thinking. You come forth and you just say, okay, I was in Maya. Everybody falls under the veil of Maya from time to time. During our, you know, purification process, even though we don't want to. Sometimes we make decisions that are incorrect, or, you know, maybe not so thought out. But when we try to protect it, we try to stick to our positions, even though we know they may not be correct. Devotees, shouldn't do that. We should recognize it and then, move on from it. Madhavi Garangi, Mataji, you would like to say something? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much for the awesome, wonderful explanation of all the verses. I really appreciate it. I wanted to make a point when you asked about the battle of Kurukshetra and the promise in front of the deity, but I was driving, so I was not able to. But yeah, the point here is in the purport that one thing is deity is non-different from the holy place also, because Krishna is absolute. So holy place, his name, everything is absolute. So deity is non-different from the holy place. And VCT, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his commentary for the first verse of Bhagavad Gita, he is giving there about mentioning about Kurukshetra as a Dharma Kshetra, because of course, Srila Prabhupada has also given because it was a site for religious activities, but he specifically is mentioning that it was a site where celestial beings used to perform sacrificial activities, yagya, for the pleasure of Lord Vishnu. So that's why that land became Dharmakshetra, or a land which which is reserved for doing pious activities. So the point I think I'm making here is that's why Srila Prabhupada in the purport is mentioning that just like in the Battle of Kurukshetra, because Battle of Kurukshetra started there on that particular point, and I think Mother Shobhara, they also said the same thing.
Yeah.
But the thing is that the holy place is never different from the deity, and that's why Srila Prabhupada is saying in the purport that when we make a promise in front of a deity, or we make a promise in a holy place like Kurukshetra, which is Dharmakshetra, where the activities, sacrificial things they were doing for the pleasure of the Lord Vishnu. So that's the point. I hope I'm making sense. So that's what I wanted to say at that time. The reason why it is Dharma Kshetra, Kurukshetra, and why promising in front of deity is compared with the promise on the battlefield of Kurukshetra.
Thank you. Thank you for that explanation. Very clear. Thank you. Mother Golokananda Priya, going back to your question, do you have any thoughts on that, or is anybody, just before we conclude, do you have any more thoughts you'd like to share? Okay. Anybody else would like to share anything?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, like Kali Yuga, people, they can easily lie without, without knowing what's, even in front of the deities, in front of so many other Vaishnavas, but they don't feel guilty about it. I think that is a contamination of Kali Yuga. People don't care what reactions they will get or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a lot of encounter a lot of devotees. They would just really lie, But I knew these people are lying. some very good, and not good friend, man.
Yeah, it can be tough. It can be tough. We just don't want to take, we don't want to take the power of the holy name for granted. And we're warned against this. This is an offense against the holy name, to sin on the strength of the holy name. So to thinking that, oh, well, I chant the holy name, so it all doesn't, it doesn't matter. Krishna sees everything, and that we should also know that when you know, you have to have faith, you know, you wonder whether the person really believes that, you know, does Krishna see? You know, does Krishna really see this? You know, does Krishna matter? Because Krishna is the witness of all. But yeah, no, what you pointed out is an anartha that we should all, you know, be careful about. And you know, we need to protect our bhakti creeper by not allowing anarthas such as, you know, dishonesty from manifesting.
I think the Kali Yuga is people are really like, you know, I know very devotees been, you know, it's been practicing for years, it still has this anartha. This is very, that people won't always want to be right. To be humble is not easy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another anartha, just to want to always be right. That's true. Krishna Kirtan Prabhu.
Yeah, she already covered, very nice. Interesting. When we come to devotional culture, when we get attracted, because this is something which we've never experienced in our life, we invest all our faith and knowing well that this is the only life and this is wonderful people. We have so much of expectations because we don't know. But then as we come, you know, become more and more into it, of course, we realize that, you know, everyone comes from, you know, background, you know, trying to practice their best. But then we also try to find fault in it. Oh, look, I think that becomes a very obstacle in our progress as well, finding fault. So many shocking things happens, you know, every time you see, wow, I never thought like this can be, people can do like this. So that's why it's at the beginning itself is careful guidance and careful training is very much needed so that we can be steady in all circumstances. The many such incidents we experience, and we also become cause of impediment and distress for others also, knowingly, unknowingly. So that's we are not also pure devotees. So it happens. But as Mother Golokananda Priya mentioned, yeah, it's shocking how after so many years also one can act like this and that. Yeah, it is observed, and hopefully we will not do the same.
Mhm.
We will not do the same. No, that's the just small point. Thank you
Yeah.
for the discussion.
Yeah, no, it's true. When we can learn from others' mistakes and not have to do it ourselves. But we should also understand that also we're not perfect ourselves. So have some understanding and compassion of why a person may be in that role or position where they feel they have to be dishonest, say different lies in order to, you know, protect their reputation or protect their position, etc., whatever reason may motivate them. Yes, it made me think of, you know, even Srila Prabhupada, you know, he'd say that everybody's saying Srila Prabhupada said, you know, if it hasn't been written in my books, you know, you didn't hear me say it directly, don't believe it, because I guess at one point everybody was saying, well, Srila Prabhupada said this, Srila Prabhupada said that. And a lot of it may not have been true, or wasn't true. So even just using the words of the spiritual master, you know, people were saying, you know, Prabhupada said this, so therefore you should do like this. Okay, let us conclude here. Thank you for that discussion that we just had, and as well as, you know, for this wonderful reading. We'll continue next week. And we will pick up on verse number 48 of chapter 5 of the Madhya Lila. Thank you all. Have a wonderful Krishna conscious day. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha
Jai Sindhudeva Chupatitanam Bhavani Vaishnava Namo Namah. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Yeah.